Hello, I'm Daphne Young, Chief Communications Officer at Childhelp. We're America's largest and longest-running national nonprofit dedicated to the intervention, the treatment, and the prevention of child abuse. We are proud to be a resource for Foundation for Global Sports Development and Sidewinder Films in this virtual presentation of At the Heart of Gold. During the COVID-19 crisis, we have an opportunity to come together as families and have some tough conversations, but also wonderful talks about how we can keep each other safe. For those parents of children and youth athletics, this will be especially important. For teens with dreams of gold, this is also essential viewing. And for those adult survivors who are still in a process of healing, we hope today will be special for you as well and part of your path of growth. So we're going to keep it conversational and informational, and I've got some great questions that have been submitted by experts, survivors, and parents who just want some answers to questions that will be raised in this film. This coronavirus is pretty scary, but when you see brave survivors like you're going to witness in this film, I think that you'll reach deep inside and find that will to be strong, to make it through, to persevere, and to come out even better on the other side. If these brave women can do it, so can we. So let's get into some of the questions, and hopefully this will provoke a dialogue in your home. One of the first questions I was asked is, what are the signs of grooming? You're going to want to look for some definite changes in behavior. Watch out for this kind of scenario. Hey, who are you texting? What? No one. You're also going to look for a young person that didn't have many resources and is suddenly showing up with snazzy shoes, designer bags. A lot of times predators use material items to connect with younger people. They fulfill their desires, but then expect a lot in return. You'll notice one of two emotions potentially: the elation of new love, that exciting feeling of being both secretive but also kind of brimming with talking about this new person. And you also may notice withdrawn, anxious, and depressed emotions. So one or the other can represent grooming happening on the other end of a keyboard or in the life of your child or young adult. You want to look for some new language, sexual acting out, or some knowledge that the young person in your life just didn't seem to have before. Sometimes this goes along with substance abuse, change in a friend group, and overall less communication with the family. Look for somebody who's shutting down. You need to be the safe adult in your child and young adult's life. But what does that mean? Teach somebody you care about to find an adult that they trust, somebody that can get them help if they're hurting, and a person who's calm, caring, and doesn't break your safety rules. This needs to be someone a child feels very secure with and can easily communicate with, whether it's you or a family member or someone else that you can put in that position of very strong trust. It's got to be somebody that has the best interests of your child or young adult in mind. I received several questions on the consequences or psychological effects of trauma. And this is twofold, because initially you have the short term. There's shock, shutdown, fear, anxiety, nervousness, or sometimes a complete dissociation, denial, confusion about dates, times, events. It's something that always makes me crazy when I see news reports about survivors and they say, well, she didn't remember this and she didn't remember that, and where was she on this date? Very few of us have a calendar memory of where we are and what we're doing. But when we are traumatized, that whole schematic goes out of the window, and what you feel is a pounding heart and a shaking hand and very little opportunity for those brain waves to be taking in all that information. So a lot of times the body, the mind, the spirit shuts down just to survive. You can also see the beginnings of grief, the stages of grief, and the most heartbreaking thing for me is a lot of survivors feel guilt, and they ask themselves, what did I do to bring this on? How did I bring this into our lives? Was it something I wore, said, did? And that takes a long time to heal. And one of the primary messages that we have with Foundation for Global Sports Development and a program that they underwrote for Childhelp called Childhelp Speak Up, Be Safe for Athletes is when a coach or a parent or anyone harms a child in the youth sports, we always say, this is never your fault. You did nothing to bring this on. And that is essential for every survivor. As we know from ACEs, there are also long-term effects of sexual abuse on a young person. This includes substance abuse, poor physical health, eating disorders, more frequent visits to doctors, and chronic diseases and pain. We see mental health issues, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, some of the dissociation that I discussed before, almost the leaving of the body or the disconnection, cutting, burning, other forms of self-mutilation, sometimes suicide ideation. We see in relationships marital discord, fear of intimacy, trust issues. Trust can be really scary because maybe the last person that someone you love trusted harmed them deeply. We see a greater risk of domestic violence, but we do know that through proper intervention, things can change. We can turn this around. To reverse some of the outcomes of adverse childhood experiences, we turn to therapy. There's traditional therapy, but there's a whole lot of amazing ways that we can increase mindfulness and find community networks of support that can enrich our lives and put us on the path to a better day. During the viewing of this film, if you feel triggered by any of the content, or you remember a time in your life where something bad happened to you, or perhaps something you didn't know was child abuse is now sort of becoming salient in your mind, please call the Childhelp National Child Abuse Hotline. We are here night and day, 24/7. We are filled with degreed crisis counselors, so you never get a bot or a volunteer. You're talking to somebody who can truly help in the moment. We can translate in 170 languages, so no matter where you're calling from, we've got somebody that can answer your questions. We're first here to listen and then to help you find resources in your area. Because it's completely anonymous, you're allowed to just call in and be you and tell your story. And if you want to tell that counselor who you are and where you are so that they can immediately find someone in your area to support you, we've got that. If you just need to get it off your chest and get some tools to get you through the night, we can also do that. So please call 1-800-4-A-CHILD. Yes, it's a hotline for a child in crisis, but it's also for a teen experiencing extreme anxiety. It's for an adult having a hard time because they're remembering past abuses. We are always here for you. Got a lot of questions about signs and symptoms of child abuse, and let's first define our terms. Child abuse, specifically sexual abuse of children, is non-contact abuse. It's making a child view a sex act, show sex organs, inappropriate sexual talk, contact abuse, fondling, penetration, performing a sex act, exploitation, child pornography, and sex trafficking. It runs a gamut, but what it does at every level is injure a child for life and give that brave survivor so much to have to fight against in the future. Signs of a sexual abuse in a parent or caregiver, things you want to watch out for, especially as so many first responders have to leave their children in the care of others because childcare has been shut down during this coronavirus pandemic. Look for parents that fail to supervise their children, unstable adult presence, jealousy, or possessive parenting. You may look for sexual relationships that are troubled or dysfunctional, and a parent that relies excessively on a child for emotional support. They're confusing the boundaries. They're not taking care of the child as a child. Signs of sexual abuse in a child can be both physical and behavioral. On the physical end, you might notice a child that has difficulty sitting, walking. They're experiencing bowel difficulties. You're going to look for torn and stained and bloody undergarments, bleeding, bruises, pain, swelling, itching in the genital areas, frequent urinary tract infections, yeast infections, and, of course, sexually transmitted diseases. Other signs are behavioral. These are the child that doesn't want to change their clothes in PE, a withdrawn, depressed, or anxious individual. Again, the eating disorders, the preoccupation with body. You might seek aggression, delinquency, poor peer relationships, bad self-esteem. A lot of these kids lack confidence. They're not taking care of themselves. Absenteeism, decline in school performance, running away, recklessness, and substance abuse or suicide attempts. As a parent, you want to watch out for sleep disturbances, a fear of bedtime, nightmares, or at an advanced age, a child that's wetting their bed or having regressive behaviors. Sexual acting out, unusual or repetitive soothing behaviors. That's lots of hand washing that's not COVID related, pacing and rocking back and forth. Anything that looks like your child is just trying to take care of themselves because they are feeling so at loss and so out of control. Sexual behavior, again, anything that appears too advanced for some little person to know about, or even a teen to be involved with in any way. This isn't about hand-holding or a first kiss, right? This is some intense information that comes from exposure to pornography or bad behavior. And of course, the report of sexual abuse or the disclosure. And that's something that needs to be met with great compassion, great care, and also a sense of calm. You need to advocate for that young person, but first you need to make that individual feel totally and absolutely safe. We received a question about how parents can mitigate their own triggers they're experiencing during the COVID-19 crisis. And that's a lot about taking that time out, ensuring that you're getting the self-care you need. And despite economic issues and all the struggles that we're going through, if we can take a breath, pull back, and realize that everything we say in front of the young people in our lives impacts them for the rest of their lives. So, go out in the yard and shut the door and have that one-on-one couples conversation about instability or concern. Turn down the news sometimes and just read a book and listen to music and watch films that bring the family together. Watch things like Get the Heart of Gold, where you get to have a conversation about real-world issues that are going to impact you after the COVID-19 crisis is finished. Get ahead of some of these issues that maybe have been on the back burner, things you didn't want to talk about. You have a great opportunity to come together and do so much problem solving right now. It's definitely a curse for the nation, but it can be a blessing for your family's communication. I was asked if I have any advice for families struggling in quarantine, and I really don't, because I've been seeing families be so creative and so insightful about what they need. And for the ones that are having a hard time, I think that those individuals just reaching out for help, just letting someone in your life know, I need you. I need a moment's respite with these kids. Can you come over and just watch them for a half hour? Or calling the Childhelp National Child Abuse Hotline, 1-800-FOR-A-CHILD, and saying, here's my very specific situation. Do you have any parenting tips for me? Our counselors have seen and heard everything. And one of the things that they're masters at is bringing down that tension, that strife, and that anxiety that a lot of families feel. Our calls have gone up 31% during this crisis. So we see everything from a child trapped at home with an abuser, and we can get help to that child. We have seen teens and parents clashing like never before, but we also are seeing them come together stronger once we work through some of those core issues. And survivors are up late. They're thinking about things that have happened in their past, and we can be there to help them soothe and get resources and find online communities that maybe can help them out during this difficult time. The whole world is kind of worried and stressed at the same time, and that can compound trauma for many. But I am here to say that I have seen also the best of humanity at a time like this. We are terrified as an agency because of abuse numbers potentially rising, but we are heartened because we are seeing members of the community come back and come out like never before to report child abuse, to advocate for kids in their community, and to be part of something like you're going to be part of in this viewing of At the Heart of Gold, where you are taking an opportunity to stop, to listen, to learn, and to impart your wisdom for the love of a child, and for the love of a survivor, and for the love of someone in your life that needs that boost and that support to live their best life, to find their gold within. So if you need us, we are here for you at 1-800-4-A-CHILD. We are here for children in crisis, but also for survivors that need services. And we're here for you if you are a parent or anyone that needs resources during this difficult time. Thank you for being part of this virtual viewing of At the Heart of Gold, and for mining the gold within during a difficult time in our nation's history. We are better together, and I'm so glad that we were able to view this together today. Thank you.